as his side beat Manchester City, City rivals, by 2-0. Just taking a look at what that means for the Premier League table. Obviously, we'll talk about Arsenal, that draw against Forest a little later on, and Liverpool's draw as well at home. But we'll kick things, obviously, by talking about City, who sit second at the moment. They are 7 adrift now of Arsenal. Manchester United, meanwhile, just one off Liverpool and a top 4 spot. For more on this, let's welcome in Mark Ogden. Oggy, I tell you what, that must have been the happiest you've seen Old Trafford for a very long time.
It was, and you know they've had a couple of good results over the last 2 or 3 years. I think the FA Cup winning against Liverpool a couple of years ago under Erik ten Hag. But I think, the atmosphere was great that day. It was great today. But I think the difference today was that United actually won a game they deserved to win. In the past, they've had big wins and they've been kind of clinging on. But today, from start to finish, Michael Carrick got his game plan right. United were on the front foot, attacking it, and it was like watching, the old Man United of, being attack-minded and going for it really. So you have to give credit to Michael Carrick for that tactic. And I think obviously the return of Brian Mbeumo and Ahmad made a big difference. But having watched the Ruben Amorim teams and prior to that the Erik ten Hag teams, but mainly Amorim, it was just complete night and day because the football that we've seen for the last 18 months at Old Trafford has been terrible. But today, it just showed that they've actually got some good players if you play in the right positions and give them the right formation and just give them a bit of belief.
They were really good, weren't they, today?
They were really good today. And they've set a bar now, they've set a standard, these players, that Michael Carrick can go in after the game and say, listen, that's it. If we play like that, we've got half a chance. But if we drop the standards, then the results will just go back to where they were and the performances. Martinez coming back in from a long layoff, with his, not just his aggression at the back, and he's not everybody's cup of tea, I know that, but his ability to pass the ball out from the back. Moreno coming in, who was out the equation under Ruben Amorim and looking really tidy on the ball. Bruno Fernandes getting further forward, able to get in those more dangerous areas and get more involved and get runners off him, which they had. It just all looked a lot better. And as Oggy said, it's the first time in a while I've seen them take on one of the best sides in England, albeit they were not at the best today, and maybe that was a lot down to United as well. But it's the first time I've seen them against a side going for the championship, and they could have scored 5, and they deserved to win. They outplayed them at times. They were smarter than them. They were quicker to the ball. They were aggressive in their challenge, and they had some real quality about them going forward. So I thought, all in all, bearing in mind it was a big decision given Michael Carrick to the end of the season, it could not have gone any better.
Yesterday, Stevie, you said you've got to be careful if you're United not to go for it too much because you're going to leave yourself exposed.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, when they left themselves exposed, the back four did the job,
right,
which was as big a surprise as anything. Dalot and Shaw, Shaw in particular, has shown us what he's capable of. Shaw's a guy who sometimes turns up and you think he's still in his bed. But today, he was at it. He was tight. He made good decisions. And Dalot, other than that crazy challenge that he made on Doku, was good defensively as well. Harry Maguire and Martinez never looked in any danger. They looked comfortable, regardless of what they had to do, whether it was balls in the box or whether it was just basic defending. They were just a step ahead of anything that Man City could throw at them. And you're 100% right. I said yesterday, if they go toe-to-toe, they're in trouble. Well, they went toe-to-toe and they completely outplayed City.
But Shaw's played as a lot of the games as a left-sided centre-back in a 3, which he can do. But he's a left-back, isn't he?
He's stuck in the middle.
But I know what you mean, Stevie. He has had a lot of injury problems, and at times he has cut a bit of a frustrating figure because there's a much more aggressive, better player in there, and I think we saw a lot of that today. But I even think we saw some real composure in the midfield from Casemiro and Kobe Mino, and being able to play those little clever balls around the corner because they had Bruno Fernandes in good positions, and he was either able to get turned and start things off or drop a little deeper and then play those balls over the top. And of course, one of the big decisions, I think, maybe it wasn't a big decision, was the fact that Mbeumo comes back and starts because Sesko has just hit a little bit of form, and I think one or two going to Old Trafford might have thought the big guy would have started up front, but you have to say he got that one spot on.
Oggy mentioned it. It seems simple, doesn't it? Play the players in their right position, and you're going to get a better performance.
Yep.
Why haven't we seen, Ruben Amorim, obviously in particular, do this? Why complicate things when you're not getting the same results?
Well, because coaches sometimes do that and they overcoach and You know, and Shaw's a great example. When he's playing the left side of a three, it's more complicated.
Right.
But when you task him to play left back, he knows exactly the role. And every single one of those in red today looked as though they actually knew what the role was, and they went and executed that. And I think they were a little fortunate they found a Man City side that weren't quite at it, but they were, and so we saw what they're capable of. Just because, as you said, football players love it when it's simple, you know. Just give me a job. Tell me what you want, and I will do it. That's what Carrick did today.
I would never make excuses for the United players. But it's a much more difficult dressing room to get motivated, to put performances on when your manager is continually talking you down.
Right.
He did.
Worst Manchester United team ever.
Oh, I haven't got, I'm just never going to get the players to play this system. This is the worst team. You know, Marcus Rashford, I'd rather play the bus driver. I haven't got this. I haven't got that. You know, let's put it all on the players. He tried to talk them down to talk himself up and make himself look better. And in the end, what he was getting from the players was half-hearted performances. Now, I'm not saying that's correct, but players listen. And so, and I'm not suggesting this is going to go and be the greatest thing ever. We don't know, but it certainly was a great performance today. But don't you just feel much better if you're in the dressing room and your manager's coming in saying, look, simple for this, you're playing there,
right.
You're that, this is what we're doing. Give you a little bit of belief rather than listening to a manager sat there with his head down in a press conference saying, I'm never going to get the players and I'm not this. I'm a manager in my head. What the hell am I?
Yeah.
I mean, it was so depressing in the end. I think it just got to everybody. So that little bit of freshness, certainly today, and next week's another story, but certainly today, we saw this energy about this United side that just wasn't there. Because as Oggy said, maybe they don't have the best players on the planet, but they have some good players. And when you give them good players with energy, belief, and a bit of desire, drive, and confidence, then you get better performances.
I don't want to make any excuses for City because they don't deserve any, considering the performance they put in. But that should have been a red card, shouldn't it, Mark? We had the PGMOL saying it wasn't excessive force.
Yeah, it was a terrible challenge. It really was a bad one. I'm not quite sure why. It was such a bad challenge. So I cannot understand why VAR didn't take that further, because it was a terrible challenge. Terrible.
Red, yeah.
That's a red card.
Yeah. Right. That aside, what the heck was City doing today?
Well, where do you want me to start? Team selection?
Yeah. Okay, go on.
Okay, Matheus Nunes has the flu and doesn't play, but again, the full-back area hasn't been addressed, and I think we see why Rico Lewis isn't playing. I mean, he was driving me bonkers coming into midfield all the time. It was already crowded enough in there as it was. So he plays two youngsters at centre-back. The young lad Lane really struggled, and that's not a detriment to him, but it was a big game. Ake could easily have played there from the start, and Nicol O'Reilly, who's been playing left-back, instead of coming on at half-time, when you're already losing momentum, he could have started at left-back. So that was a strange one. We all thought Cherki would have played. He didn't. He'll come on at half-time for Phil Foden. And Semenyo got more and more frustrating as the game went on. And the longer the game went on, the more inside Lewis and Semenyo came. And at one point in the centre-half, I'm watching it, and I was thinking to myself, they can't even go wide. They could only go one way. So United could squeeze them to Doku, because they couldn't go to the right-hand side in the second half for the bulk of the game, or the bulk of the second half, because the full-back and the wide player were stood holding hands with Bernardo Silva and Erling Haaland when he was on the field. There was no space to operate whatsoever. I thought City were pretty pathetic today. And I think all the defensive headaches, and you can tell me, Diaz and Guardiola are injured. I get that. John Stones. But go back and look at John Stones. Last year he played 11 games, Premier League games, so they knew it was coming. The year before he played 16 Premier League games, not even half, so they knew it was coming then. And they haven't addressed, at the start of the season, they didn't address that scenario on top of the full-back position. I mean, it's just bonkers. I must talk about Aït-Nouri more than any other pundit. But when he went out and signed him at left-back from Wolves, we all went, he can't defend. He likes to go forward. And he's now A centre-half played at left-back to start this game. A midfielder came on at left-back who's played there the bulk of the season. And he's came back from the AFCON, and then he comes on near the end as what choice left-back's he now? So I have no sympathy whatsoever for their defensive issues because they didn't address it. And the Erling Haaland coming off was a strange one. But let's be honest, you could have put anybody up front for City today, and they probably wouldn't even have got a look in. That's how bad they were.
Oggy, did Pep address the substitution of Haaland after the game?
Yeah, he just talked about tiredness and just saving players for the games ahead. He wasn't blaming the games they had recently, but he was mentioning it a little bit. It was a clever way of using the fact that they played a lot of games, but I'm not using it as an excuse. But I think for me, the reason why City lost to them, why Haaland was so frustrated was, if you look at City's midfield, I mean, on that graphic you just showed Rodri on his own. I think it was Rodri and Bernardo Silva, but they've got no legs in midfield. And if you think about, Man City's great midfielders over the last 10, 12 years, Yaya Toure, Fernandinho, Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan, Rodri at his best, power, physicality and ability to cover the pitch. They've got none of that now. And they were actually outplayed and outrun by a midfield of Casemiro and Kobbie Mainoo. Now, we've all spoken about Casemiro a lot on this show over the years. He's a great player that he was. His legs have gone. And Kobbie Mainoo, who I think embarrassed Ruben Amorim today by playing so well, he does have his shortcomings. He can't get around the pitch. He's not very mobile. He can go to sleep at times. But that midfield two of United's dominated City's midfield. So City couldn't get the ball to Haaland. They couldn't protect the defence. And over the last 12 to 18 months, City spent a lot of money. They've only signed a couple of midfielders. I think Reinders is one that's done okay, but Reinders hasn't really kind of stepped up a level that Bruyne played at. So I think City's midfield is the issue. They're spending lots of money on forwards, they're spending lots of money on defenders, but right in the centre of the pitch, the guys will know you kind of win games in the midfield. If you can't control your midfield, as United have found out over the last God knows how many years, you don't win anything. So City's midfield has suddenly regressed to the point where they're being overrun by Man United midfield, who we've criticised all season.
So he's picked the wrong team. He's picked the wrong midfield as well. Regardless of what you think of Reinders, you put him in there because he can get around.
Right.
So why don't you put him in there? You add that to the two fullbacks. I mean, how you play Kushinov and then the young kid at centre back when you've got Ake? There's nobody more experienced in that team in the Premier League than Ake. And you expect Ake to handle Assad coming at you? And then, of course, you see the second goal. It's classic. The fullback's not a defender. Rico Lewis lets Dorgu get inside him and sticks it in an empty net. That is because your fullback can't defend. So he's got it wrong always round. And in terms of Haaland, he must have just packed it in. Pep must have said to himself, we're done.
Right.
We're getting nothing. I'll get him off. Because you're 2-0 in a derby. You don't take the one guy who's capable of doing something and getting you back in the game, you take him off the field. To me, that said he had just decided, you know what, we're getting nothing today. Get him off and get him rested.
All the talk for City was when and not so much from inside Man City, but sort of around them, when Rodri was out and they were struggling last year, was, once Rodri comes back, everything's going to be rosy in the garden again. But yet, one player was never going to come in and, put sticking plaster over the issues that they have. And so he has all these players, particularly in the midfield to forward areas, and I don't think he knows how to use them the best. And when you want to play Bernardo Silva a little further forward and Phil Foden in there and two wide guys, I don't care who you are. I don't care how good you are, but Rodri's brilliant on the ball, but he can't cover the ground of two people. No. That's impossible. He just can't. And so you leave him isolated in there as he was at times, defensively, and you've got such a weak back four anyway, an inexperienced back four, then you're asking for trouble. You're asking for trouble. So you got to look at the manager and say, he got the shape and personnel of this team wrong today, and Man United took their pants down.
City, of course, we saw last year, they don't mind panic buying in the January transfer window. You can't say that, obviously, about Semenyo and Guehi. Great additions to the squad. Are we going to see more now, Mark, before the end of the month?
It's 50-50 with City. I think Guehi should be done in the next 24, 48 hours. He's got a medical booked in for Sunday, so that should get done. And obviously, like you say, £20 million for Mark Guehi is a great deal. They would like to get a midfielder, and they do like Elliot Anderson, but I just can't see Nottingham Forest selling Elliot Anderson this window. I mean, it'll cost a lot of money this summer as it is, but Forest are in a bit of a tricky situation at the bottom of the table. I think they'll be okay, but still, it would be reckless of Forest to let Elliot Anderson go now. So, but like I said, City, they've got money, they've got that ability to make teams do deals that they wouldn't ordinarily do. They can appeal to players because of the wages, but I think that one's going to be a tough one to get over the line. But they would like a midfield if they can get one.
Okay, you mentioned Gay leaving, and I just want to tie that in with Glasner and his future, because he certainly wasn't holding anything back after the defeat today. I feel we are being abandoned completely. The worst thing is selling our captain one day before playing a Premier League game. I've kept my mouth shut until now. You get your heart torn out twice this season, both times one day before a game. It happened with Eze, and now with Gay. I'm not sure if Glasner's been quiet up to now, but Hoggy, overall, is this a don't blame me for what's happening at Palace, I'm still a great candidate for Manchester United?
I think it's don't blame me, and it might be his exit strategy as well, because if he's talking like that, I can't see him seeing out the rest of the season, because he sounds like he's given up already. In terms of United, obviously, he will be under consideration, but I think those odds there that you're showing, I think they're very, very optimistic in terms of Glasner, because if Man United wanted Oliver Glasner, they could get him now, because he's got 6 months left in his contract. In terms of compensation, it would be peanuts really compared to what they don't want to pay. You're probably looking at £2 or £3 million. So he's available now in the sense that he's leaving at the end of the season. I think that United are looking at a different level of coach, an elite coach, but obviously we don't know how well Michael Carrick will do. We know that'll start a bandwagon going. But in terms of Glasner, yes, he's available in the summer, but I don't think he's that high at the list at Man United right now, because, like I say, if they really wanted him, they can get him now. I think Glasner wants to make a step up. I guess the club that might be more suitable for Oliver Glasner is maybe a Tottenham, that kind of level below the top clubs, but still a progression from Palace. But would anybody want to go to Tottenham? That's the question.
Can I just quickly go back to something Oggy said on Man City, because it's really, I think it's a little bit annoying in a sense, not what Oggy said. Oggy said, well, they need another midfielder, they need this. How many players does this manager need?
Yeah.
How many players? How much do they need to spend? What's he doing on the training field? Oggy says they need another midfielder. They've got Rodri fit. Nicol Gonzalez has got a knock, but they signed him for 60 million. Tijani Reinders, they signed from AC Milan. Bernardo Silva's still there. And then they've got all these attacking. How many players? Are we just going to keep sitting here and saying, oh, they need another 2 midfielders, they need another 3 centre-halves? Are they just going to roll it out for him until he's got enough players to win this Premier League again and use that as an excuse? Because he has enough players.
Yep.
OK, he's got these injuries at the back, but I go back to it. They did not address these areas in the summer. But we're sitting here saying he needs another midfielder, he needs this. They've got these players. They have them. It can't be an excuse for Pep Guardiola after last season's debacle to say, I don't have enough players. Right? I'm sorry. That is not a good enough excuse when you look at his squad and you look at one. And as I say, Gonzalez is out with a knock, but it's not long term, I don't believe. And Tijani Reinders was one of the best players in Italy. It's hence the reason they signed him. And Bernardo Silva is still there. There's 4 midfielders at least.
Why are you hitting your phone?
Because I'm getting angry. I'm going to bash the phone. I just feel there's always, and I'm not saying Oggy's making an excuse, but I just feel that there is a thought process out there that A, City haven't spent enough and B, City don't have a big enough squad. Yep. That's nonsense.
He was complaining last year that he had too big a squad, didn't he, in the second half of the season. So then, that defeat for Manchester City gave Arsenal the opportunity to extend their lead at the top of the table. Mark Ogden's still with us, so Arsenal, 7 points clear. They could, of course, have been 9. Aston Villa can close that gap. They're in action on Sunday. But overall, as I say, we've seen this before from Arsenal. Too much of late.
Yeah, and it was a great opportunity, bearing in mind they knew what had gone on in the morning, to go to a side that were beaten by Everton recently, amongst others. The Forest, apart from the West Ham game, they've not been in good form. They've been under pressure at home, and of course, Arsenal dominated. They were always going to do that, but Forest made it into the type of game that they wanted. It was a bit scrappy, and they tried to hit on the counter, and there was a few tackles going in. But Arsenal were, just poor in the final third. They just looked a little flat, as almost they thought a point was okay for them.
Do you think so?
No, but I kind of just felt that. And obviously, I think there is a discussion. I mean, depending what happens tomorrow with Aston Villa, they can put a bit of pressure on, or a little bit of pressure on. Once again, we saw a talking point up front in Victor Gyökeres. He does look, and when we come in today, before we come on the show, I said, I said to you boys, he looks like a championship player in a potential title-winning side. Yeah. That's how he looks.
Do you know, this is not a straightforward, oh, Arsenal this and Arsenal that. Listen, you know how good the Invincibles were? That was a fantastic team, wasn't it?
Right.
Right.
Where are you going with
Where
this?
are you going with this?
Well, they drew 12 games. They drew 12 games.
I think it's the performances. I think
Well, it's the front players. It's the front players.
Well, yes.
And against Liverpool and today against Forest, the front players were lacking. And he completely changed the front three again, as he did at Liverpool, and they still couldn't produce.
Right.
So that's the only problem they have.
So what's that got to do with the Invincibles?
Well, because everybody's going, oh, they've dropped points. I mean, you can't expect every single time you step on the field you're going to win 3 or 4-0 against a team like Forest.
This isn't an anomaly. This is Arsenal now. Like, who's excited about watching an Arsenal game? No one.
The point is, Dan, they've put themselves in a position where we're sitting here, well, I'm sitting here going, is this a point gained or 2 lost? They're 7 points clear at the top of the league. If somebody said to you, after 22 games, you're an Arsenal manager, by the way, you're going to be 7 points clear after 22 games, you would have taken their hand off in a heartbeat.
I absolutely understand that.
Well, I just think we get carried away. We get carried away with this, woe is me. They're 7 points clear at the top of the league after 22 games.
Right.
And if we want to pick a hole, we can pick a hole on the front players in the last 2 Premier League games who have been firing blanks.
No, they're going to be champions. I don't think there are many that are going to argue against you for that. And
right.
yes, that's brilliant.
Right.
But for us, we want something more, don't we? Like, if you're not an Arsenal fan,
But that's what I'm saying. We just look at the team sheet and we look at what we think Arsenal are, and when they're at their best, and then we look at Forest, what they are at their best. Well, they should be an easy win. Football doesn't work that way. You know, sometimes when you're playing away from home against a side like Forest, who on their day will chase you, fight you, harry you, not give you much. And if you don't take those little opportunities you get...
Thinking, we could have been 9 points, and it could be 4 points by the end of the match.
I think he likes draws because Liverpool are drawn again. He likes...
Draws are the new wins.
Draws are good.
Yeah. What about the Invincibles, Mark?
Yeah.
They drew 12.
Well, they drew 12 games.
I don't know what that has to do with anything.
Well, it has a lot to do with it.
Why?
Well, because everybody talks about how fantastic a team it was, but they drew 12 games.
Right.
But this Arsenal team is not allowed to draw. It's all of a sudden, it's all woe. It's woe is me. This is Arsenal. Oh, Arsenal's going to... Oh, calm down.
Oggy, is Arsenal going to do anything in January?
Unlikely. You know, they spent a lot of money in the summer, didn't they? They really kind of blew their budget on Gyökeres and quite a lot of forwards. Eze came in and Madueke, so it's unlikely they'll bring anybody in. But I know Stevie's coming from. I can take his point, but I think in terms of the draws, but I think that Invincible side would, when they had to win, they would win, and they would show people how good they were. And I think this Arsenal side just lacked that ruthlessness to kind of really take a step towards the title. And I think a lot of it's down to Arteta in the sense that he never really goes for broke. He's more cautious than the managers that usually win titles. And I think they will win the league, but I mean, this is probably going to upset a lot of Arsenal fans. But if they win the league this year, I think they'll be the weakest champions for a long time because they've got the weakest teams chasing them. You know, the teams that are in second and third aren't the classic, challengers. This Arsenal side are nowhere near the Liverpool sides that have won it, the City side. I mean, even the Leicester side that won it in 2016, I think they give this Arsenal side a run for the money. So, but they're going to win it, so the Arsenal fans won't care, will they? They won't care if they're not champagne football like the Invincibles. If they win the title, it doesn't matter. But they're winning it because they're so far clear because of the failings of others rather than because of their excellent play or performances themselves.
So 12 times the Invincibles.
Oh my God, it's still going on about it.
They didn't have to win. All right.
Right. Anything else? I think that's it for that game. Let's talk about Liverpool against Burnley. More questions then for Arne Slot to answer. Liverpool 1, Burnley 1. Liverpool are 4th, despite all their rubbish this season. Yeah. They are 1 point clear of Manchester United. Big gap between them and obviously Aston Villa and City.
Look at that goal difference, +4 after 22 games.
It's a bit like City in a sense, isn't it? There shouldn't be any excuses. It's just not good enough.
But it's just weird.
No, but it's just not. It's not acceptable. It's not good enough. He had everything he wanted pretty much. All right, didn't get Mark Gay in the summer, right? But he didn't. Nobody thought that Kanate and Van Dijk in particular would have poor seasons and Kerkez would struggle. But he's got to address that, the manager. But he got pretty much everything else. I mean, they were just going to turn up and everybody else was going to get on their hands and knees and give them the Premier League trophy. So to see some of their performances this year, it's embarrassing. And I saw a stat earlier, it's the first time in Premier League history a reigning Premier League champion has failed to beat a promoted side at home. And that they've drawn with Leeds, they've drawn with Burnley, they've drawn with Sunderland. There's nobody that turns up at Anfield and doesn't think they can win. And that's on the manager and the players. It's not good enough.
Like when Edwards scores, you think, right, everyone's going to rally now. And I suppose we thought that all season. And there's just no response. We've talked about, that glass chin that Liverpool have.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, defensively, if you're playing against Liverpool, you know they're going to give you a chance. I mean, you just know. And regardless of how long you defend, like Burnley did today, when you know in the back of your mind that we can get at these, and we just need to get it right once, and that's pretty much what they did. They got it right probably twice in the game, and they took one of the chances, and then Liverpool have been doing going forward what they've been doing all season. There's no real combination play. There was a couple of times over the last 2 or 3 weeks when Frimpong's been playing that him and Verts have had a couple
What
of.
are Liverpool doing in training up front to address this? Because as you say, we see it all the time.
I would guarantee you in training they're hitting the back of the net for fun. The problem is training and games are two different animals. You can set up in training. Ideally what you want is repetitiveness, right? And that means you're setting training up. You're doing exercises so that your forwards and your attacking players are hitting the back of the net. So that when they go into the game, they're confident. But of course, unfortunately, when you go into the game, the opposition stick people in front of you. And the opposition do things that they're not supposed to do. And so it completely changes the whole thing. But the biggest worry for me is there's no combinations with the forward players, really.
Yep.
It's all individual stuff. And when it's all individual stuff, then the percentages just go down in terms of creating chances and scoring goals. And then when you can't defend, then it just needs one break, and all of a sudden you drop 2 points.
It's not even a big story anymore, is it?
No.
That's the whole
it's not
thing.
a
You look at the
surprise.
order that we were looking at today, it's like, what are we going to say is different about Liverpool?
But it should be. It should be, and maybe that's... Had Liverpool not won the Premier League last year, and they did, had they not, they would have been dragging, I think the Liverpool fans, that is, would have been dragging this manager through the coals. The fact that he came in and they did play so well, particularly for the first 6 months or 7 months of the season, domestically, and took the Premier League by the scruff of the neck. Okay, they fell away at the end, but they'd already won it. The fact that he did that is allowing him, at the moment, this leeway for all these performances. And he can thank his lucky stars he got that, because had he not, and they had been just also-rans last year, he'd have been back in Holland by now, looking at some of these results. So we talked about it the other day, Stevie and I. Barring a disaster, he's going to get to the end of the season. Yeah. But if this is a continuation next year, he hasn't got a snowball's chance of staying in that job. Not a chance.
Yeah. No, there's no sign of improvement. I think that's the thing, isn't it? There's no sign that what he's doing...
Well, he's got the Salah issue.
Yes.
Which, and again, next year, 1 year older. Van Dijk starting to struggle, 1 year older. So it doesn't get any easier when you get into your 30s like that and you start to struggle. It's much more difficult to have a bad season and when you're 33, 34 and flick a switch and come back in the summer and have a great season. Yeah. It's much easier to do that when you're 26, 27, 28. So if he can't address it, the chances of the form of some of these players getting better next year is very slim.
Yeah, Oggy, the drop-off has been so stark, and it's a question that none of us thought we were going to be having at the start of the season, is questioning Slot's future, especially with a certain former Liverpool player who's just left his job at Real Madrid.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, the backing for Slot amongst the fans is beginning to wear a bit thin, to be honest. I think, having been at games and spoke to, some Liverpool fans that I know, they are losing patience with Slot, and it's almost like they don't want to, but they are doing, because they accept that, he won the league last season and he had a great year, first year after Klopp, but I think they accept now that it's not looking great. And you're right, Xabi Alonso's available, and Xabi Alonso is kind of the darling of the Liverpool fans. He was their first choice to replace Jurgen Klopp, and none of them had actually heard of Arne Slot, to be honest, when he got the job, but they all wanted Alonso, but he ruled himself out pretty quickly. So the fact that he's there, obviously he'll want a break and he'll want to kind of freshen up, but when the summer comes, I'd imagine he'll be available. So that doesn't work well for Arne Slot. So he has to get something out of this season. He has to start finding a way to deal with those issues that Craig addressed. And I think the big one, the Mo Salah thing won't be an issue next season. It'll have to be resolved either now, in the next 2 weeks, or in the summer. I don't see Mo Salah being at Liverpool next season. I really don't. He may not even be here for the rest of the season. I think he will be, but that hasn't been resolved, that situation. He comes back from the African Nations on, I think, Monday or Tuesday. And, you know, what does Arne Slot do? They haven't lost a game since he dropped him, but obviously they haven't been beating teams and turning up any trees, but they haven't lost. Now, when he put Mo Salah back in the team, the issues that they dropped him for in the first place, the lack of work rate, the lack of goals, if that remains the case, and it affects Florian Wirtz's kind of slow progress, then Mo Salah's a problem again. So Arne Slot's got a massive issue to address this when Mo Salah comes back. And it's kind of been brushed under the carpet a little bit. And I guess it's something that he's kind of dreading because, you know, the Mo Salah situation, it was a hard one to solve last time, so that could blow up in the next few days.
And we'll be talking about Salah's future at Liverpool, of course, later on in the week when he returns from the African Cup of Nations. But for now, let's keep our focus on what happened in the Premier League today. Liam Rosenior's, of course, first game in charge of Chelsea in the Premier League.
But Brentford kept going.
Yeah, Chelsea 2, Brentford 0 then is how it finishes. Victory for Rosenior's debut then at Stamford Bridge. Mark with us. Craig, as I mentioned, you kept an eye on this for us.
We get no Liam Rosenior quotes of that because I'm kind of thinking he's said already in his early tenure some kind of questionable things in terms of his rhetoric, so I don't know what he said.
Is it fair to say the scoreline doesn't quite reflect what happened in this game?
100%. It was two mistakes, certainly the second one from Collins, who put Kelleher, who's been brilliant, under pressure. If you watch this game, and I don't know, that's why I'm intrigued to know what Rosenior is going to say about it, or has said about it. Chelsea, and I don't say this lightly, they got battered, outplayed for the bulk of this game. They had their moments, but if you'd have looked at these two sides and said, one of them lost 3 or 4 top players in the summer, and the other one has spent millions, you'd have thought Chelsea had lost the players and Brentford had spent the millions, because the way that Keith Andrews' side played was terrific. They sat Chelsea back on their heels. They punched Chelsea in the nose several times, and they were frightened to press Brentford because they were playing round them. And they had, you know, the big fella up front who was always a threat. They had Jensen playing some stuff. They just played. This sounds strange because they lost. But they lost this game because they had 2 poor moments in the match, and their finishing was very poor. And to be fair to Robert Sanchez, he had the stinker in midweek, but he made a couple of good saves.
Right.
But in terms of what Liam Rosenior takes from this game, he takes 3 points.
And run, is that basically
and absolutely runs. Because if they play like this, Chelsea that is, most teams in the Premier League will beat them. And Brentford, who were 5th, I think, going into this game, which is a testament to them with their squad, they played by far the better football in this game. They had the Chelsea fans moaning and groaning at home. The fact that they didn't score was down to them, but they completely bossed this Chelsea side. So I think there's a lot of questions there for Liam Rosenior about how he's going to approach at the games and what he's going to bring to this Chelsea team, because how they played today was a bit of a head scratcher.
Well, we saw how they're going to play against Arsenal midweek. I mean, it's open. And so, unless you're so dominant and then you're creating and taking your chances, you're leaving yourself open. And a team like, I don't think we give Brentford enough kudos that they actually play some good football. We know that they compete, and we know that they'll play the ball forward early if it needs be. But in this game, they showed us actually they can knock the ball around. And so you have to ask yourself, what is Rosenior going to? Is he going to keep playing open attacking football against everybody, home and away? Because if he does, it's going to be great to watch, but unfortunately, he's not going to get many wins because that back line isn't capable of stopping most teams. So, Brentford, they're way better than I thought they were. I didn't give them enough kudos, but Chelsea, they're way too wide open. It's all this lovely, we're going to play football patter. Sometimes it doesn't work, and when it doesn't work, you have to change. and he never changed anything the whole game.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
Oggy, any business that Chelsea will do now in the next couple of weeks?
Well, they want a defender, but you never know with Chelsea because Chelsea seem to go into every window saying, we'll have a quieter window this time. We'll get to the last week of it and they start throwing money around. So, they do need a centre-half. They were looking at Mark Gueye, but that was never going to happen with City and Liverpool in there. So I think they would look to do anything at the back end of the pitch. I think they're okay in attacking sense. They've got a lot of wingers, a lot of forwards, but they need a centre-half. But whether they can find one or not, I'm sure they will because that's what they tend to do, but they are looking for a centre-half.
Let's check out what else happened today in another new low, if you like, for Thomas Frank at Spurs. Tottenham taking on West Ham, looking on frustrated as West Ham get a much-needed victory, of course, in their quest for survival. Taking a look at what that means, they, of course, still sit in the relegation zone, 5 still adrift of Nottingham Forest. For Spurs, they sit 14th. They don't have to worry about relegation, but Thomas Frank most definitely has to worry about his future. He's a dead man walking, isn't he, Mark?
Yeah, I think he is, and it's because it's the fans that have turned against Thomas Frank way before the club have lost patience with him. I think the club would like to stick with him, but the fans are booing him off at every game now. The fans just don't like him. They don't like his football. They think he just doesn't get the Tottenham way, and we know that the Tottenham way is to play a certain style of football, and it's cost a lot of managers the job at Tottenham, but he just doesn't fit there, and I think that's the issue. I think next week they got Burnley away, which is, they have to win that game if Thomas Frank's still in charge. And if you look at the games they got in February, they've got United and City, they've got Arsenal and Newcastle, so he really, really needs to get a result next week if he's still there. But I think the case is that the fans have turned. It's a case of Tottenham, can they find somebody who can replace him until the end of the season, then they can do this, search for a manager in the summer. But they're in a bit of a mess, Tottenham. They really are. I mean, they're not going to be in a relegation battle. It's like last season, isn't it? They're way down the bottom half of the table, not at risk of relegation, but going nowhere. And I think, Thomas Frank is going to be very, very lucky to see out the season if he sees out the month.
No, it's results and it's performance, isn't it? I mean, they can't. They're not borderline unwatchable. They're just unwatchable. And you look at the expected goals, for instance, in that game against West Ham. West Ham, who are one of the worst teams thus far in the league going forward. They are so blunt going forward. They don't create many chances. We're almost double Tottenham at home. And it's not an anomaly. And it's okay when, you look at Brentford. Stevie talked about, we were talking about Brentford and how they played some really good football. That's a sea change for how they did it. They're starting to play some good football. They're seeing what Keith Andrews is working on in the training field. What got Thomas Frank his name at Brentford was sitting in, was physicality, was long balls over the top for Mbumo, and it was Ivan Toney before, and Johan Visa, who would run in behind. It was Norgard in the middle, they were digging away. Yep. And that was okay for Brentford. That was okay, but he's gone into Tottenham and he's tried to do something similar. And at the start of the season, it was all right. Man City away, you thought, well, organised, City away, not much possession, that's clever. But when you're playing that way against some of the poorer teams in the Premier League, at home, and you're not getting results, the only way to satisfy supporters when you're watching such dire football is when they leave a ground and they got 3 points. Mm-hmm. It's a bit like when Mourinho was at the end of his tether in a few clubs. The only way you can sell that type of football to supporters is victories and success. There is nobody buying football like that when the results are not there. That's the only thing that's going to keep you alive. When your performances are as dull as Tottenham's are, then there has to be something tangible on the league table, and there is not.
Spurs fans want Xavi Alonso, Mark.
Xavi Alonso for Tottenham? Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Yeah. Ryan Mason's available again. He lost his job at West Bromwich, so Ryan Mason could step in for the rest of the season. But Spurs have got, and the problem that Tottenham have got is if they do get rid of Thomas Frank, they're up against Man United, who are looking for a manager as well. So that will automatically diminish their chance of getting a coach. Real Madrid might want a permanent manager soon. So Tottenham are going to be looking at, they're going to be 5th or 6th choice with these top managers. So again, that's an issue. So I do think Oliver Glasner's a shout for Tottenham, but whether he wants to risk his reputation, I'm not too sure.
Anything you want to add, Stephen?
No, you're done. When your own fans at home are singing "You're getting sacked in the morning," you're in trouble.
Just a reminder, plenty more reaction to what we've seen across the board over on our YouTube channel. Be sure to go to ESPN FC and subscribe. It wasn't exactly the perfect start to the season, was it, for Alvaro Arbeloa? Losing in the Copa del Rey. Well, it was the first home La Liga game today as Real Madrid took on Levante. For more on this, here's Kane Ali.
Thanks, Dan. So the big question was, how would the Bernabeu respond? And I think we all knew the answer to that, Ale.
Yeah, not very well is the answer.
Not very well is the answer. Luis Garcia has been watching it with us today as well. So it was a win and they did what they had to do, Luis, but there's still that little but, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. We were expecting a punch from the very beginning, a statement of Real Madrid from the first minute. But in the moment that they hear the whistle, I think the confidence went and dropped so much because we saw some of the big names not wanting the ball, not facing 1v1 players. We're talking about Vinicius Jr. on the left side trying to, but not really accomplishing. We saw Jude Bellingham also maybe in the second half a little bit better. When Arda Güler got involved, when Mastantuono got involved, when Ceballos got involved, they brought a spark on the field and a creativity that it was lacking in the first 45 with Camavinga and Tchouaméni being kind of stuck into the middle. Yes, well done on recovering the ball, but not really bringing the ball in good condition to the players up front. So in the end, it's a so-so. Yeah, it's a good result. Important to try to build on that. It's the second game of Arbeloa. Actually, he's got 3 days to plan this game and to looking forward to the next one. But definitely not what we were expecting because of the energy, because of the intensity and the fight that we were all looking forward to see the Real Madrid on the Bernabeu. They was ready to put on a test to these Real Madrid players. So, yeah, a so-so, and let's see if we can see better on the coming games against Monaco, Villarreal, or even Benfica.
Now, he didn't leave any of his big names out today, but which of the big names impressed you today, if any, Ale?
Impressed? Well, that is a loaded question, Kane. I suppose you're impressed by the fact that Kylian Mbappe has miraculously recovered from his injury and was ready to play 90 minutes today. But as it pertains to the other big names, I must say, in that first half, they were more concerned about, man, if I hang on to this ball any longer, they could not whistle any more than they have so far. So what they did was, let me get rid of it. Let me get rid of it. As long as I don't have the ball, I'm not getting whistle. There were players, and we talk about how Santiago Bernabeu affects, in terms of pressure, the visiting players. Today, Santiago Bernabeu were affecting their own players. In the first half, these guys were afraid to play. The whistling kind of went away in the second half to most players because Real Madrid were playing better, because they were scoring goals, because they were winning the game. It didn't matter with Vini Jr. At the end of the game, even when he was dribbling players and trying to take shots on or whatever, the whistles were still there. There's a disconnect right now between Vini Jr. and his fans that I think is the fans demanding something from him. It's not Xabi Alonso's fault anymore. It's now on you, Vini Jr. You need to show us something. We're demanding something from you. It hasn't happened just yet. And I think to some degree, Vini Jr. was kind of like, why are they still whistling? So much so, like, towards the end, he's kind of clapping to the fans, hoping that the fans were going to clap back. They're like, no, we're going to keep whistling until you show us something. And I think this is true for the rest of the team. They need to show more than they did today. The first half was horrendous. Second half, slightly better. But they need to build on this as we face forward and think of what this team can be going forward. They have to be exponentially better than what they were today.
Yes, absolutely. Vinny Jr. finding out that it doesn't matter what your name is at the Bernabeu, you can still get whistled. So now Real Madrid are to within a point of Barcelona, but of course, Dan, Barcelona will be playing tomorrow.
And that game, of course, live on ESPN+. Me and Craig will be taking you through it as they take on Real Sociedad. That game at 2:30 Eastern. To the Bundesliga, Leipzig against Bayern Munich.
Just sort of roll over in the end.
So Bayern Munich 5, Leipzig 1. Here's Harry Kane.
Well, we'll be brutally honest. At half-time, we thought a reaction was coming. We didn't think that was coming. Did you?
Well, I think, this season, second parts of the game, the last 30 minutes of games, I feel like we've grown in a lot of those. I think when the space gets a little bit bigger and we have the squad that we have and the subs that we make, the energy stays high, the intensity gets even more almost, and then we punish them. They were still dangerous. Manu had to make some really good saves in the second half as well. So it was one of those games where it was on a tipping edge, and then once we got ahead, and then obviously the third, we kind of just pushed on from there and really just kind of set a standard that we've been doing all season.
What did the manager say at half-time?
He was quite calm, to be honest. I think, although obviously they had more chances than us, we felt like there was moments where the pass was just an inch too far or an inch too slow, and we had moments ourselves. So, and we knew as the game would go on, the spaces would still be there, and we just had to be a bit more cleaner with the ball, especially when we recovered it, about them first 1 and 2 passes to get out of there, kind of counter press, and we done that well second half, and then obviously we took our chances when they came.
How much does it elevate the squad shooting game when you're coming up against Manuel Neuer in training?
Yeah, I mean, Manu is incredible, honestly, to obviously share the pitch with him, but also to watch him train every day. 39 years young, you know, he's still bouncing about, small-sided games, finishing practice. It's easy for him to probably just go inside after he's done his goalkeeper training, but he's always there with us, and you saw today we needed him. He made some really big saves in the big moments and helped us win the game.
Life of a striker includes a nice slip from your opponent sometimes. What was going through your head when you saw the slip? Was it?
Yeah, it was kind of a quick reaction, to be honest. I expected him to just head it away and then, just come at my feet really quickly. And the touch was really good from my point of view. I talk a lot about the touch before the finish, and it kind of set me up. I took another one and I was able to kind of put it across. From that distance, it's more just about power, and thankfully it went in.
And he called it Bayern Dusel. I don't know if you've heard that expression before, but he said immediately, it's Bayern Dusel.
What's that?
So it's Bayern it is seen in Germany, let me say first of all, it is seen in Germany that Bayern sometimes have a piece of luck that will go their way.
Okay.
Mind you, not this season. It's very different this season.
No one's
That's
talking
historical, yeah.
He has thrown me so far under the bus
I'm
here.
not complaining.
No.
And he was buzzing when the 5th goal went in because my prediction was 4-1. So just to make that clear.
Thank you very much for doing that, Thomas.
There you go. I'll let you
All right.
Yeah, no, Harry, I was going to say, you can go. Thank you very much.
So Bayern looking all right, aren't they? 11 points clear at the top of the table. Borussia Dortmund win today, but they still remain very much the underdogs to catch company's side. Action continues tomorrow. Stuttgart, Union Berlin, Augsburg, Freiburg live on ESPN+. That is it. That brings us to the end of today's show. Mark Ogden will be returning. Craig and Stevie are obviously here as well to answer your questions on Extra Time, which is coming up now. Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you for your questions. We welcome Mark Ogden, Stevie, Nicol. Craig, first question for you. Why is Haaland always so invisible in important games?
No, he isn't. Not every game. I think his record would tell you that. But I will say one thing. There's a couple of ex-Man United players, and not for the first time, embarrassed themselves this week.
Well, yeah, Scholes, was it Scholes and Butt who came out and said that Haaland would pick Martinez up?
I think Nicky Butt said he'd pick him up and run with him, Martinez. And if you look back at actually Martinez's record when he's been in a team against the Haaland team, whether it be Dortmund against Ajax or United against City, I think he's got 1 goal in the 7 games. So, you know, whether you think Martinez is the greatest or not, he's an aggressive little player, and just because he's small doesn't mean Haaland's going to have his way with him, because he's not. But a lot of that Haaland stuff wasn't just about him today, as it hasn't been in a lot of the games. And this is not the first United game where they've had lots of possession, although they didn't have as much today as normal, and he's had very little ball. And they're tippy-tappy football at times. But but when he did get the ball up to his feet and it wasn't off, he wasn't great. But this notion that he never does it in the big games is just not correct.
Stevie, you've obviously been critical of Martinez and his size.
No, he played well today. Yeah. No, he played well today, yeah.
But the one thing he gives them, he can pass it out from the back. You know,
probably his best asset.
We can argue about his defending and his height, and but the one thing he'll bring to that side is those pacey balls he plays forward into feet. He's very good at that.
Oggy, there are going to be so many overreactions to United win, but is there anything Carrick can show that could earn him the permanent job? Tactics, positive performances against teams that allow United more possession, getting more out of the squad?
Well, I mean, we're going to get to that point, aren't we? They've beaten City today. If they get a result at Arsenal next week, there will become a momentum, and it'll be a case of, does he deserve the job? And I guess if the tactics are good, if the performances are good, if they get players playing much better than they were under the past manager, then he will be considered. Now, United have been kind of scarred by what happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He did really well. They gave him the job. It dropped off, and then he persisted with him for like 3 years, and it was obvious it was never going to go to a different level. But I suppose you can't compare Michael Carrick to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It's a different character, it's a different level altogether. He's been a bit more open-minded about the coaching staff, because when Ole was there, he wouldn't add better coaches to his staff, whereas Michael Carrick from day one has said, we need a better coach. He brought in Steve Hollander, I guess, who's been around the block, who will have a big impact. So, Michael Carrick's different to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and if he gets a run of results, then what will count in his favour is that he will be cheaper than a Thomas Tuchel or a Carlo Ancelotti, and there'll be a popular appointment with the fans. So if you're Ineos or the Glazers and you think, right, who's cheap, who's popular, Michael Carrick, that's how it'll work in his favour.
It's pretty straightforward, really. If Carrick gets them to be at it consistently the way they were today, then it's up to up the stairs to get him better players. I mean, that's surely if he gets them to produce what they did today, I mean, regardless of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or anybody else, if he gets them to do that, he would deserve the job. But then they've got to get him better players. It's pretty simple if you ask me.
For Stevie, what are the 3 major positions Liverpool need to strengthen in this summer?
Well, centre-back's pretty much the obvious one. You could probably do with 2, never mind 1. I think if they brought a real midfielder in as well, I don't think Curtis Jones is a starter in Liverpool's best 11.
So who would you have from the world?
From the world, I don't have any at the top of my head, but the Szoboszlai, McAllister and Gravenberg, no question, were fantastic last year. Hasn't quite worked this year for whatever reason. I think they need somebody who's going to really shove one of them out to get them back to where they were. And I don't think Curtis Jones does that. So I would say a centre midfielder. And I think they need somebody in the wide areas, because obviously Mo's going to go somewhere, either, as Oggy says, probably not this, but the summer. And Gakpo's becoming a little predictable. So I would look for a wide attacking forward.
Craig, West Ham are only 5 points off Forest. Who gets relegated?
Between those two, if it was between those two, and Leeds have got a couple of good results, I think they're 3 points ahead of Forest. I would say at the moment, still West Ham. At the moment. Big result for them today, obviously. Between the two of them right now, I'd probably still say West Ham are, even though they're behind in points, they're still a more vulnerable team, I'd say. I mean, don't forget Forest just beat them in London.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it wasn't a great game.
Oggy, was Manchester United actually that bad during December, or were they just missing Ahmad and Mbeumo?
I mean, that is a good question, but they were that bad. I mean, they were definitely missing Mbeumo. I think that the Wolves game was the one that showed you that no matter who was playing, that Ruben Amorim was just going up a blind alley, because they had that great result against Newcastle with 4 at the back. Wolves game comes, a team that hadn't won all season, and he goes back to 3 at the back, and it was a terrible performance. I think 9 defensive players. So I think no matter who the players are, the coach is the one that picks the players. And we saw some bad results with Mbeumo and Ahmad in the team anyway. So I think they were pretty bad in December, and it was pretty much down to the head coach for picking the tactics and the players that he did.
Mark, why doesn't Manchester United want to spend any money this transfer window to solidify their chances of getting a Champions League spot?
Well, they had the money to do Antoine Semenyo. If Semenyo had wanted to go to Man United, they could have done the deal at £65 million. But the reason why they're not going to spend it elsewhere is that they believe that they need midfielders, and the ones that they want, the ones that are good enough, they feel, aren't available this window. So Elliot Anderson, Adam Wharton, Carlos Baleba, in United's eyes, are not available. So why dip into your money now on people that aren't quite what you want and dilute your spending power in the summer? So that's their logic. But obviously, if they spent £50-60 million now on a couple of players that would make them better, like they haven't got a right back who's any good apart from Mazraoui, who's a wing back, so they've no cover for Dalot. You need a right back. I guess you still need to bring a midfielder in, but their argument is that if you spend that money now, it means that we might not get the player that we want in the summer. So that's their view of it. But obviously, if they spend now and get in the Champions League, they'll have more money to spend on the players they want in the summer.
Ooh. Time to replace Slot with Xavi is the final question, Stevie.
No.
Why not?
Well, what did Xavi do at Real Madrid to fill anybody with any confidence? I mean, he didn't do anything.
But could anyone have done anything at Real Madrid?
Well, that's a question I can't answer for you.
Right.
All I know is that managers are based on what they do.
So
right?
if you were starting a new club, you had to choose a manager between Arne Slot and Xabi Alonso. You would choose Arne Slot.
Well, it's not that straightforward.
Well, it's a straightforward question.
Well, it's not.
I think it is.
Well, it's not.
It is.
No, well, honest. So Xavi Alonso had a bunch of players who were kind of unknowns, but were all together. They were all young. They listened to everything he said. He got them all together, got them playing. It was fantastic.
Oh yeah, Xhaka's young. Jonathan Tah's young.
So it's a completely different ball game when you take over one of the so-called top clubs.
Craig was addressing you then.
Well, you don't normally listen to anything he says anyway, so why would you listen to that?
Don't start getting narky at me because he's proved your point.
Well, what do you mean he's proved my point?
Wrong.
Right, take your time. God. No, Xavi got a bunch of kind of mostly unknowns, mostly,
so what
and turned them into a team.
So what Arne Slot did with Liverpool was more impressive last season. That's what you're saying?
So you're trying to be clever.
I'm not trying to be clever. I'm just telling
you that Xavi took over a bunch of players that nobody was expecting, and he turned them into something fantastic.
Arne Slot took over a team.
It's a fantastic story. Do you want me to answer this, or do you want to just keep butting in?
No, it's okay. I just feel like I just need to add a little.
So you want to butt and go on then?
No, I finished.
So you're saying Xabi Alonso's a bad manager now? That's what you're saying.
You're saying that he's
sorry, Dan.
What are you trying to say?
I am saying that Xavi Alonso got a group of players and come up with an incredible story and got them together to play some incredible football. Right. But when he took over a bunch of superstars, he couldn't handle it. So why would you give him another big job like Liverpool?
Really? That's your stance on this? So when it comes to summer and he's hired, that's going to be your stance. He doesn't deserve the job because he can't take it.
I didn't say that. You said that.
You said that's exactly
what
he
doesn't
get.
No, if he doesn't
work again.
If I'm picking in the world and Xavi's one of them, certainly you think about it. Right. But I'm also going to look at. So would I be completely stupid to look at Real Madrid and say, well, that's nothing to do with Xavi. It's because it's Real Madrid. So is that your answer?
No, of course not.
Well, it sounds like it. That's exactly what you said.
I have given you the option of Arne Slot and Xabi Alonso, and you've danced around this answer for some reason.
What do you mean for some reason?
I don't know why.
Well, because it's not a straightforward yes or no,
but
right off the bat.
You still haven't given me an answer.
I'm not giving you an answer.
Ooh.
You can shove your answer.
I can't wait till Alonso gets appointed and he goes, "I have a really good appointment." This.
I know. It's going to be brilliant.
Because he'll have forgotten.
I can't wait.
Well, they'll have forgotten by that time what he said anyway.
I can't wait completely.
I don't know why you get so narky about a simple question.
It's the simple ones that get them.
It's the person answering the question that's the problem.
I just love all those unknowns at Leverkusen.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow, you knew them, aye. So you did.
Oh, Granit Xhaka, Florian Wirtz, Jonathan Tah.
One.
Frimpong.
Oh, you know them now. You know them now because you sat and watched them for 2 years. You wouldn't have, when he went there, you wouldn't have been able to tell me 3 of them.
I just told you
flinging
4.
all the names
I just told you 4.
Yeah, aye, right. Been watching them for 3 years.
Are you back tomorrow, Stephen?
I hope not.
Probably for the
best. Are you or Don? Are you back?
Me and him are doing it.
I think I'll be sick tomorroll. I can feel it.
Wow.
Who's in tomorrow?
Who's me, you and Shaka?
So why are you sick then?
I'm sick of you.
Well, why?
And I'm getting sick of you and all.
Good.
So
sick of him.
So I won't be in tomorrow, regardless.
Well, you're not on the schedule.
Well, I'll definitely not be in there.
Well, yeah, so
there
no
you
need
go.
to be sick.
Oggy, anything you'd like to say before we go?
Oggy's still there.
Oh, he's having to listen to all of this.
How's he going?
Yeah,
Oggy, who are you giving the job to? Slot or Xavi Alonso?
Well, when I was talking to somebody about the Man United situation during the week, I was we kind of went off topic a bit and we started talking about Xabi Alonso and how he wouldn't be a Man United coach. Anyway, it was put to me that Xabi Alonso will end up at Bayern Munich this summer because Vincent Kompany will go to Manchester City. So I don't know if Liverpool are going to get, but that's the story I was told in midweek.
Oh, okay, there we go. You can poo-poo that.
Well, we don't want him anyway.
That's it. ESPN FC.
Well, why would why would Bayern Munich? He just
failed at Real Madrid.
Burnley.
Dear. That is it. We will be back tomorrow to reflect on Barcelona against Real Sociedad, plus a couple of rubbish games in the Premier League. No. Who's playing tomorrow?
Villa are playing and
Everton
are playing and Wolves are playing.
Right.